Welcome to Hail Mary. Every Wednesday, I'll look into each NFL game coming up by looking at news, trends, and stats during the build-up to the game to make predictions about each game. However, each analysis comes with a twist. I'll make a Hail Mary prediction for every game, or in other words, a bold prediction. I'll also highlight my game of intrigue for the week for the final analysis of each show. Last time around, it was certainly not my best showing with the 5-9 week. Lots of upsets and unexpected, faltering teams that should have won. This week, however, I'll look to turn it around as we look forward to this week's game slate. So we kick it off with Thursday night and New England sitting at 2-10, at Pittsburgh sitting at 7-5. New England currently on a 5-game losing streak and offensively look quite inept and quite lost. The Steelers, they're inconsistent but have a favorable matchup against a tanking Patriots squad. I don't think the Patriots are actually tanking, but they probably should because they have no future this season. So we take a look at some basic New England stats. Their offense ranked 28th right now in yards per game at 290.4. They've scored 16 offensive touchdowns. Their defense, pretty solid effort from them. They ranked 8th in the league in yards per game, given up at 310.5 and 26 touchdowns. Last week, they lost to the Chargers 0-6, probably one of the worst NFL games I've ever seen. Both sides of that game were just terribly played. Injuries-wise, Tyrone Wheatley, one of their offensive tackles, will be out for the contest. And we look at Pittsburgh offensively, not a great season for them, ranked 26th, yards per game 294.9 and 18 touchdowns. Their defense, surprisingly not that much better, ranked at 21st, 348 yards per game and 22 touchdowns allowed. The Steelers are very misleading. They don't have the greatest stats. They're just managing to pull out these close games that they probably should not be winning. Last week, kind of got exposed against the Cardinals, losing 10-24. The Cardinals aren't that good, but the Steelers, they kind of got exposed for being the fraud team that a lot of people think they are. When we look at their injuries, Trubisky will be playing in that quarterback. Kenny Pickett is still out. As for my game pick, this game actually could go both ways. I know the Steelers are 7-5 compared to a 2-10 team. The records are quite different, but when we actually look at the statistics comparing each team, the Patriots' stats almost look better. The Steelers only average 4 more yards per game and have only scored 2 more touchdowns. The Patriots' defense is actually probably better than the Steelers. So this game on paper is way closer than it probably should be. But I do have the Steelers winning. The Patriots are on a massive slide, and they have many questions that probably will not be answered this Thursday. The Steelers are not in the greatest position either, but the record says otherwise, and a win will put them in a good position to make the playoffs. My Hail Mary pick, this is not necessarily the most outlandish pick, but I think the under will be achieved. Likely a bit more scoring than last week's Patriots-Chargers game, but I'm going under 1.5 touchdowns total, and I think a bunch of field goals. Both offenses are not good. It'll be a low-scoring contest, so just expect to see some low numbers there. Next up on our slate, we have Tampa Bay sitting at 5-7, at Atlanta sitting at 6-6. Both are a part of the worst division in football. This game will likely decide if the Falcons will slip away with the division or if it will remain a 2 or 3 horse race depending on the Saints' performance. Both teams need the win. Atlanta to push ahead in the division, Tampa Bay to remain close into this division. This division will likely have a not 500 winner, which will be quite amazing. When we look at Tampa Bay's stats, offensively, ranked 23rd, 305 yards a game with 25 touchdowns. Defensively, ranked 27th, 356 yards given up a game, and also 25 touchdowns. If you take a look at their numbers, not great, but the record explains it, sitting at 5-7. Tampa Bay, they're just a middle of the pack, kind of okay, kind of mid team. Last week, they did get the job done against the Panthers. Who doesn't nowadays? The Panthers, they're another story. No one's out for the Bucs this game, so that does give them a little bit of an advantage. When we take a look at Atlanta, their offense ranks 18th. Defense ranks 10th. Again, same number of touchdowns scored as given up. Pretty even on the road numbers. You expect that from a 6-6 team last week got the job done against the Jets. No injuries as well. No one super significant declared out of the contest yet. Obviously, both teams have guys that have been on the IR or that are out for the season. But anyways, we take a look at the game pick. I'm a big fan of chaos. The Falcons won the first matchup. Why not pick the Bucs? Falcons won the first matchup 16-13, but why not pick the Bucs? Why not have a little contest? They match up pretty well against each other, and this division is full of unexpected surprises. So let's pick the more interesting outcome with the Bucs win. Now, in the game, I expect some vintage Baker Mayfield performance. 250-plus yard passing, no interceptions, 70-plus completion percentage. He's going to look like the Heisman winner again. The game will be close, I think, but Baker's performance will really lead the Bucs to a win. Next up, Detroit sitting at 9-3 ahead of their division. Chicago 4-8, not where they want to be in the division. Obviously, divisional rivals. The Lions won the first matchup 31-26, so they have that advantage going in. The Lions are fighting for a top spot in the NFC as well as in the division. This win will be a big win for them. Keep them in contention for that 1 seed in both respects. The Bears are in a good spot to get potentially 2 top 5 picks, although the record is improving after win 2 in a row coming off their bye. Detroit's stats, when we take a look, top halves in both offense and defense. Offense ranks 2nd in the league. Quite impressive. When we look at their last week performance against the Saints, they did come out with the win 33-28. Injuries, Alim McNeil was placed in the injured reserve, his defensive tackle. Be a little bit of a loss for them up front, but they should be able to make up for it. We take a look at Chicago, their stats. They rank 20th in offense and 11th in defense. Much better than the record would suggest. You thought they'd be a better team now at this point in the season, but Justin Fields was out for a lot of it. They're moving around a lot of pieces. Last week's performance, actually 2 weeks ago, they had a bye, was a 12-10 win against the Vikings. They did not score a touchdown in that game, in fact, but their defenses were able to rally, hold down the fort. 4 picks they got, which really helped them in that win. Injuries, they don't really have any of note. Pretty healthy coming into this one. One of the most healthiest teams in the league, actually. As for my game pick, I'm very tempted to pick the Bears, especially considering the loss the Lions had in the division to the Packers a few weeks back. However, I believe the Lions will be motivated, especially considering the viability of acquiring the 1 seed in the NFC. So I have them pulling this one out, but it's going to be a shootout, and it's going to be a close one moving into my Hail Mary pick. I see it being a shootout. The over-under at 43.5. I anticipate that being broken by at least 15, if not 20 points. The first game in this matchup was a high-scoring affair, and I see no reason why that should change this time around. Both teams allow a healthy amount of touchdowns for their opponents, which I believe will be the case during this contest. Don't be surprised if the Bears give the Lions a run for their money. The Bears are improving, and they're playing well. When we look at Indianapolis and Cincinnati, the next game up on the list, there's 2 teams vying for playoff spots in the AFC. Following the Jags' loss to the Bengals on Monday Night Football, the Colts are fighting for the division, also on a 4-game win streak, and they sit in the 7th seed. The Bengals, they still have a chance at making the playoffs despite losing Burrow. This game will decide if they will contend or not. The AFC is really tight down at the bottom, and a 7-6 record is much better than a 6-7 record, to say the least. When we look at Indianapolis' stats, probably overachieving a little bit. Their offense ranked around middle of the pack, defense ranked towards the back end. They did get a win last week in division against the Titans, a 31-28 win at that. Jonathan Taylor will be out again, so expect Zach Moss to step up in the backfield. When we look at Cincinnati stats, both bottom half of the league. They did take a while to get going once the season started. Last week, a 34-31 win against the Jaguars. That game was a massive win. Browning popped off. Cam Taylor-Britt at cornerback was placed in the IR recently, so he will be out for at least 3 weeks. When we take a look at my game pick, this game is really a toss-up. Could go either way. I have gone back and forth on the decision, but I will pick the Bengals. The Bengals are working with the backup quarterback, and they did just beat the Jaguars. So I think that will give them the momentum they need to win this game. The Colts need a win to push themselves into playoff contention as well. And the motivation is there, but both teams really have that, so I don't think that favors anyone in particular. I like the Bengals in this one. I think both defenses will show up well in this game despite having seasons that you could describe as lackluster. They both rank in the bottom third of the league, but with two backup quarterbacks in, I think they'll step up, the line will be held, and the opposing offense will be held to a below average performance. Expect 20 points or less. Next up, Jacksonville at Cleveland. Both teams in awkward situations, given their quarterback situations. Still making a push for the playoffs, both of them are, but the Browns' chances are declining, sitting in the 6th seed. Feels like a must-win for both teams. Cleveland on a 2-game losing streak. They're really looking forward to put something together. Jaguars offensively ranked 12th, defensively ranked 24th. Also overachieving a bit if you look at the numbers. Last week's performance, a 31-34 loss to Cincinnati, as we just went over. Not great. Christian Kirk and Trevor Lawrence are both questionable to play. Sorry, Christian Kirk is actually out. Trevor Lawrence questionable to play. If he does, that'll be a big help. If he doesn't, Jacksonville could lose. When we look at Cleveland stats, offensively ranked 21st, but defensive first in yards per game. They do give up quite a bit of touchdowns, though, sitting at 29. Last week, they got shellacked. 17-point loss against the Rams, 19-36. Injuries-wise, though, nobody super significant recently going out, which is big for them, as opposed to Trevor Lawrence, who may not play, and if he does, he won't be at full health, so that'll give him a certain advantage. When we look at the game pick, both teams, uncertainty at quarterback. Browns have a potent defense. I have them winning this game. The Jags coming off a pretty bad loss to the Bengals. The quarterback situation could be questionable for both teams, and the Browns defense really knows how to step it up. I think the Jags are slipping. Give this win to the Browns. Not only do I have the Browns winning this, I have them winning in a rout. The Jags, something last week clicked, and I realized that they're not the team that I thought they were. I see a 10-plus point win incoming for the Browns. They're favored to lose by 3. I have them winning by 10. The Browns, they're really going to show out today. Now, moving on, Panthers and Saints, divisional matchup. Panthers are currently in a free fall, having lost 5 in a row. They're sitting at 1-11. Not great. The Saints are also in the midst of a 3-game losing streak, sitting at 5-7, and need a win to get back on track in the division race, especially given their division opponents playing at the same time as them. If my prediction is correct and the Buccaneers do win, this division will really tighten up. Taking a look at the Panthers stats, offensively, they rank 30th, almost dead last. Pretty inept on offense. Bryce Young not being utilized to his full potential. Take a look at the defense, actually pretty solid. However, they do give up a hell of a lot of touchdowns. 38 touchdowns given up on the season, quite a bit. Yards per game, they do pretty well. I have to bring those touchdowns down, though. Injuries, there are no significant injuries for the Panthers. Looking at the Saints, offense ranks 11th, defense ranks 15th. You'd think they'd be better given these stats. Last week's performance, 28-33 loss against Detroit. Played them really close, couldn't pull it out in the end. Losses like these are really characterizing the Saints' season. Injuries, they have a couple guys out. Malcolm Roach at defensive end and Marcus May at safety were both placed in the IR recently. For this game pick, it's probably the easiest game of the slate. The Saints will take this one. The Panthers, plain and simply, are not a good football team, and the Saints should have no issues taking care of business and moving back into playoff contention. As for my Hail Mary, last time around, I went with Kamara having a great game, which ended up falling through, but I believe Alvin Kamara today will do it for real. Perhaps not as ambitious as last time around, but I think we'll see 150-plus all-purpose yards with multiple touchdowns. The quarterback situation in New Orleans has been shaky, giving him a perfect chance to shine this game. I think Winston will be starting, and if not, he probably will come in because Derek Carr has not been good recently. Next up on the slate is Houston, sitting at 7-5, at New York 4-8. Two teams sitting on the opposite ends of the spectrum. The Texans are in the middle of fighting for a playoff spot and potentially trying to win their division given how the Jags and Colts may play out. The Jets are on a 5-game losing streak, and even a Rodgers return in the future doesn't appear to provide any hope for them. This game, a big game though for both teams. New York, a win keeps them alive. Texans, a win really gives them a big boost. Offensively, the Texans rank 6th. What a season they're having there. 373 yards a game, 20 touchdowns. Defensively, 19th. Not the best, but better than last year. sitting at 342 yards a game, 26 touchdowns. So plus side of touchdowns scored versus given up. Last week, a 22-17 win against the Broncos. That was a big one for them, especially considering if they had lost, they'd be sitting at 6-6, 7-5, much better. Jared Patterson, their center, is out for the season, and Tank Dell was placed on the IR. Two big losses for the Texans, but I still think they'll be managed to cope against the Jets. Look at the Jets, offensively the worst team in the league, just about. Ranking 31st, 260 yards a game, 13 touchdowns only on the season. Defensively, they're great. They rank 9th, but their offense is just so inept. It's tough for them to get anything going on that side of the ball. Last week, they lost 8-13 against Atlanta. Quite an odd score, but it's about the most Jets kind of game you'd ever see. CJ Uzomah was just placed on the IR, so that will be a little bit of a loss for Zach Wilson. He won't have anybody to throw to. As for my game pick, I think the Jets defense will keep this game pretty close, but I think I have the Texans pulling away in the end. The Jets offense is just too inept to place any faith before Rodgers returns, and the Texans are on the ascent. I think they're really going to make a strong push into the playoffs. The Jets will keep it close for 3 quarters. That is my Hail Mary. I know it's not that insane, but for the Jets, 3 quarters is pretty impressive. Against a team like the Texans, this would be an accomplishment, and I think they can feasibly reach that mark. By close, I mean within 1 score consistently without falling behind that for too long. Unfortunately, I just don't think they have the capability to keep it close for 4 quarters consistently. Next up on the slate, we've got Baltimore 9-3 at Los Angeles sitting at 6-6. Baltimore coming off a bye week and a pretty successful one at that, having only dropped to the 2 seed and having the chance to drop to the 4 seed. The Chiefs and Jags both losing, both remaining below the Ravens. This game I see as a trap game for the Ravens. Los Angeles, they're sneaky good. They're coming in on a 3-game win streak, making a midseason playoff push. Both teams are eager for a win, and this should be a great game. Look at the Baltimore stats, top 10 in both offense and defense. You know what you're getting from them. A plus 21 touchdown differential, offense to defense. Absolutely amazing season for Baltimore. Last week's performance, it'd be 2 weeks ago, coming off the bye. A win against the Chargers, 20-10. So staying in LA this week. Injuries, Mark Andrews is still going to be out. A big loss in the Ravens offense. Take a look at Los Angeles stats. Offensively ranking 13th, defensively ranking 16th. Middle of the pack team. They probably should be a little better than their record suggests. Matt Stafford has had some struggles in some games. Last week, a big win against the Browns, 36-19. Very important win for Los Angeles. For my game pick, I have the Ravens winning a pretty close game. The Rams are on a hot streak and have looked solid over the last few, but the Ravens find a way to get it done against the NFC. With Lamar Jackson's 17-1 record as a starter against teams from the opposing conference, they just know a way to get it done. Lamar knows how to beat the NFC, and that'll continue today. As for my Hail Mary pick, this will be much closer than the experts think. The line is currently at 7.5 in favor of Baltimore, but I think the game might come down to a game-winning field goal or perhaps even be closer than that. The Rams are on the rise, and I think that'll be put on display. A well-rested Baltimore team, I do believe, will prevail in the end. Moving now into the 4 o'clock slate, we've got Minnesota sitting at 6-6, at Las Vegas sitting at 5-7. Both teams coming off of byes. Both teams coming off 2-game losing streaks before those byes. The Raiders have an outside shot at the playoffs and would need a win to have any hopes, whereas the Vikings, they do have better odds, currently sitting in the 6th seed in the NFC, but not exactly where they want to be. They were 6-4. They were hoping to be obviously 8-4. 6-6, trying to get better. We look at the offense of the Vikings, 10th best offense in the league, 13th best defense. You'd think they'd be a little better given those numbers. Last week's performance or 2 weeks ago as they had the bye, 12-10 loss against the Bears, not ideal for them. Jordan Hicks will be out of the game sitting at linebacker, so another big loss there. The Raiders, offensively and defensively, they ranked in the bottom half of the league. Not great. Last time they were out there, they lost to the Chiefs 17-31. Not ideal. No significant injuries for the team, though, so that will be a big positive. As for my game pick, one of the tougher picks for the week, I believe, is it's pretty much a toss-up, more or less. Both teams are struggling and looking to bounce back after some tough weeks. Based on recent performance, I'm picking the upset and the Raiders to win. Their 2 losses in a row are against competent teams that are playoff locks, and I feel that they will find a way to get the job done. The Raiders' defense, for my Hail Mary pick, will step up big with 2+ turnovers and perhaps even a score. The Vikings quarterback position is shaky, and I believe the Raiders' defense is poised for a big game being led behind Max Crosby. Look for a big Raiders win today. The next game up on our slate is Seattle 6-6 at San Francisco 9-3, a divisional matchup. Seattle would likely need to win to stay competitive in the playoff race, currently sitting on a 3-game losing streak. San Francisco are clearly the best team in the NFL at the moment, need to keep winning to try to push for the 1 seed in the NFC. A 31-13 win for San Francisco in their first matchup. We take a look at Seattle's stats, ranking 19th in offense, 23rd in defense. Probably about where you expect them to be since they're sitting at 6-6. Last week, a big loss to the Cowboys, 35-41. Close game. They really played them tight, but were not able to come out in the end. No significant injuries for the team, which is a positive. Take a look at San Francisco. Top 5s in both offense and defense. 3rd in offense, 5th in defense. Absolutely incredible margins when you look at the touchdown ratio. 43 offensive touchdowns, 19 defensive touchdowns conceded. Insane numbers. Last week, a huge win against the Eagles. 42-19 win. Injuries, they have quite a few players out. Ray McLeod at wide receiver, Eric Armstead at defensive end, and Ross Dwelley, tight end, have all been listed as out for this game. As for my game pick, I would really love to go with an upset in Seattle winning, but I just do not see it happening. The Niners are plain and simply leaps and bounds ahead of the Seahawks, and an upset would be a massive surprise. My Hail Mary pick, similar to my last pick for the 49ers, Brock Purdy is going to have another near-perfect passer rating game. No turnovers, 250-plus passing yards, and 3+ passing touchdowns. The Seattle defense cannot cope with the high-octane machine Shanahan has been producing in San Fran, and Purdy will ball out again. He's been balling out these last few weeks. Next up on the list, Buffalo sitting at 6-6, Kansas City at 8-4. Buffalo is coming off a bye week and facing what seems to be a must-win game. Chiefs appear to be in an interesting sort of funk and have some offensive struggles. Last week, certainly not their best performance. Both teams have fallen off from recent years' performances, but I believe they have the capability to switch it on at any point, and I think we're going to see that today. Look at the Bills. They should be way better than the record is. 4th in offense, 12th in defense. They should probably be sitting at 8-4, similar to Kansas City. Unfortunately, it just not has panned out in the way that they've hoped. A 34-37 loss against the Eagles 2 weeks ago. They played them really tight. They proved that they're a good team. They just were not able to come out with the win. They have a lot of one-score losses this season. Injuries, Dawson Knox will still be out. Dalton Kincaid will still be the number 1 target at tight end. When we look at Kansas City, they also probably should be better than where they are. Their stats suggest that they should be probably 9-3 or 10-2. Offensive ranks 8, defense ranks 4th. They're a great team. They just really need to find a way to put it all together for a full game. Last week, a 19-27 loss against the Packers. Not expected, not a good loss. A pretty bad team to lose to considering where the Chiefs should be. Injuries, quite a few guys are going to be out. Isaiah Pacheco, Donovan Smith, Drew Tranquill, and Brian Cook at running back, OT, linebacker, and safety, respectively, will likely all miss this game. Big losses for the Chiefs. As for my game pick, I can see anything happening in this game. I can see a Chiefs win, a Bills win, it being close or a blowout. However, a gut feeling tells me the Bills' bye week will greatly assist them and lead to a much-needed win against a Chiefs team that is really struggling right now. Not only do I think the Bills will win, but I think they'll win by 10-plus points. I know I just said I could see a Chiefs win, but I don't think it will happen. I have much greater confidence in the Bills than a blowout win for the Chiefs. And I think the Bills will pull it off this week. I really think the Bills, they'll turn it around. They'll make a push for the playoffs. They'll get in. Once they get there, I'm not sure if they're going to do much, but I guess we'll have to wait and find out. Next up, Denver at Los Angeles. Denver at 6-6. The Chargers at 5-7. It is a divisional matchup and two teams that appear to be moving in opposite directions. The Broncos are on the ascent despite its last week loss against the Texans, and the Chargers are coming off an abysmal win, if that even is a thing, the 6-0 win against the Patriots. Absolutely horrendous football. Denver, statistically, are pretty bad. 24th in offense, 31st in defense. They've improved slightly in both those categories since last time, but really not that great. Last week's performance, a 17-22 loss against the Texans, it was a decent game. They were in there for a while. Russ just had some pretty bad end zone turnovers. Injury-wise, not too much to look at for them. They're pretty healthy. Los Angeles, 15th in offense, 29th in defense, probably about where you expect the 5-7 team to be. Their offensive production actually has been a pretty lackluster compared to last season, but that has come at the expense of a lot of injuries, such as to Mike Williams. Last week, as I said, they did beat the Patriots 6-0. Pretty abysmal win. Injuries, Zach Bailey, Josh Palmer, and Dean Leonard are all out. More injuries at the wide receiver position are really hindering this offense. As for my game pick, it is a divisional game, so it likely will be close, but the Broncos should win pretty handily, I believe. The Chargers are not coached well whatsoever, and I don't expect that to miraculously change this week. And the Broncos are making a strong case for the playoffs, and I believe will pull off the upset. Hail Mary, I anticipate no turnovers from the Broncos offense as they cruise to a 10-plus point win game. I'm not entirely sure why the Chargers are favored in this game because I for one, strongly believe they are a massively underachieving team, strictly due to coaching. The Broncos should take this one, and rather handily. Moving to our Monday night games, we've got Tennessee at Miami, Tennessee at 4-8, Miami at 9-3. I personally believe the Titans have zero chance at making the playoffs now, and should just try to get a top 10 pick. Miami, they always beat the bad teams, and the Titans would fall into that category. A win for Miami keeps their 1 seed. If they win out, they will be the 1 seed, so they are sitting in good position. The Dolphins struggle beating good teams, but I think they might be starting to change that around. They really haven't faced a good team in a while, and I think they have a good shot at proving themselves down the road. When we look at Tennessee, 27th in offense, 17th in defense, not a great team. Last week, losing 28-31 against Indianapolis, that kind of shut the door on them in the terms of playoffs. Their division is just too good, and the rest of the league is just too good. Tier Tart, defensive tackle, and Josh Wiley, tight end, and Christian Fulton, cornerback, are all expected to be out. 3 decent losses for the team, but they should still find a way to manage. Miami, just a great team statistically. First in offense, 6th in defense, 50 offensive touchdowns. They do give up a lot of defensive touchdowns, but it doesn't really matter because they do score so often. Last week, a 45-15 win against the Commanders. Absolutely impressive. Also, quite a few injuries. Chris Brooks at running back and Robert Hunt at offensive tackle. Jerome Baker at linebacker will all be out. Both teams sort of even in terms of injury loss. As for my game pick, the Dolphins are the specialists when it comes to beating bad teams. The Titans happen to be a bad team, so the Dolphins will take this one. The Titans are struggling and just need to try to get a good pick. The Dolphins are a great team, at least as of right now. We'll see when they face a team like the Ravens to see how they pan out. But their schedule has been easy, and they're taking advantage of it, which is important. The Dolphins will blow away the spread with a 20-plus point win. That's my Hail Mary pick. They've been on a tear and beat the bad teams generally by a lot. Their offense is almost unstoppable and will be on full force, I believe, during this game. Next up, we got Green Bay at New York. Green Bay sitting at 6-6. New York at 4-8. This is our other Monday Night Football game. Green Bay are on a hot streak, winning 3 in a row and making a push for the playoffs. The Giants have won back-to-back prior to their bye week, but still have essentially no shot at the playoffs. They're just sort of battling mediocrity right now. They were supposed to be a great team this season. That division was really supposed to step up, but it's really just between the Eagles and the Cowboys. It's really just a 2-horse race. The Packers are probably one of the hottest teams in the NFL. They're playing really well. They just beat the Chiefs, which is always a good win no matter what. We look at their stats, 17th in offense, 18th in defense, probably about where you expect them to be. Last week's performance, the 27-19 win against the Chiefs, as I said, huge win for them in their playoff prospects. Injury-wise, Christian Watson will be out. That is a big loss for Jordan Love, one of his favorite targets, and he did have a great game last week against the Chiefs, hauling in 2 touchdowns. As for New York stats, also where you'd expect them to be, 32nd in offense, worst offense in the league. Defense, 28th, also some of the worst defense you'd see. They did get a win last time out, 10-7 against the Patriots 2 weeks ago. They're just not a great team, though, when you look at it statistically, and it's proven to be panning out in their record. Evan Neal at offensive tackle is out for the game. Very unfortunate for them, but he's not the greatest impact player at offensive line, so they should be fine. As for my game pick, the Packers are one of my favorite teams in the league at the moment. I think they can do well in the NFC and make it pretty far. I have them winning rather easily against this Giants team that has a very disappointing season compared to last. My Hail Mary pick, though, is Tommy DeVito will put up an admirable effort against the Packers. Look for 200-plus passing yards and at least a touchdown for him with minimal turnovers, one or less, and to keep it close in this game. It won't be enough for a win, in my opinion, but he'll do well and keep them rolling. Keep the Giants in a position where they have some confidence about their quarterback position. And now, the game of the week, Sunday Night Football. Philadelphia 10-2, Dallas 9-3. This is going to be a great one. Easily the best game of the week between two division rivals fighting both for the top seed in the division and in the NFC. A Dallas win creates some massive parity. A Philly win keeps the status quo. The Eagles are struggling right now, and they do not look convincing. Their defense not playing that great right now. Offense rather inconsistent. The Cowboys are playing some of their best football after the previous loss to the Eagles, 23-28, and they've won 4 in a row. Two teams both having a great season, but sort of in different moments in the season right now. The Cowboys hitting their stride. The Eagles still trying to find it. When we look at Philly's stats, not as good as you might expect. They rank 9th in offense, 22nd in defense. Kind of misleading. The record suggests they're not that great of a team. Last week, they really got exposed. 19-42 loss against the 49ers. They do not want that happening again today, especially against a division rival, and it could happen today. The Eagles really are struggling. When we look at their injuries, they don't really have any injuries. That is a big factor, however, for them in this game. When we look at Dallas, they rank 5th in offense, 3rd in defense. They are the real deal. This is a great season they are putting on. 22 offensive touchdowns, only 27 defensive touchdowns given up. Last week's performance, a 41-35 win against the Seahawks. It was a close game, but they pulled it out. That's the type of game that they normally would lose, so it's impressive that they were able to win. As we look at the injuries for the team, Sean McKeon at tight end is out. Not a huge loss, so both teams kind of sit in the same boat when it comes to injuries. As for my game pick, my faith in this Eagles team has quickly been dwindling as their wins are unconvincing and their losses are very poor. The Cowboys tend to choke games like this, though, so picking this game is rather difficult. I really went back and forth on it, but I'm going to lean towards the Cowboys, though, because they should have won last time, and they've looked better as of late, so I feel like it's all going to come together for them today, and the division and NFC race will really tighten up. As for my Hail Mary pick, Dak Prescott will prove why he's in the running for MVP. The soft Eagles secondary will not be able to cope with his production, and Dak will go for 300-plus yards with no picks and dominate the Eagles. The game will still be very close, but his efforts will lead to a win. Dallas will pull this one out. Dallas have the game of my week, and Dak will play very well. And with that wraps up today's show. Make sure to tune in next week for more of the same action and game picks. As the NFL season winds down into playoffs, the excitement only builds, and there isn't a better way to build that excitement than with the Hail Mary. We'll go over this week's picks next time around and make some new ones. Thanks for tuning in with me this week. I'm Shane Riley, and this has been Hail Mary.